We're looking at the levels. Where can it go below this? It is going to shock you how scary some of these numbers are, but DZ's still bullish. I appreciate you joining us today. We got Josh. Hit that like button as you come in because we got to talk about what's going on with the markets. On a holiday weekend, it ended up dumping on a Sunday night. Who would have seen that coming? I never would have seen that one coming, but Bitcoin could still have a ways to go, and we know why it is crashing. We're going to get into that in a minute. Josh, how are you doing, though? Did you... you didn't burn any fingertips from fireworks or anything? Because I know your portfolio is on fire.
Yeah, portfolio's on fire. I was hoping the fireworks would burn off some of these eyebrows, as chat was talking about. Just I said we're a little bit late because I was shaving them. Yeah, guys, I had to look pretty, had to trim for you guys. But I'm excited, man. I mean, this weekend's been obviously quite a mess. It's been a roller coaster for everybody. Most people in chat are down 60, 70, 80% because they don't hold Bitcoin. They didn't take profits, right? We're in this weird part of the cycle where it's roller coasters of emotions, and now Twitter's on fire. And, I honestly am excited. We have a lot of articles we're going to be breaking down both what we need to consider, guys. Okay, we do have to consider the south side of this. What is that low that Bitcoin could go to? But more importantly, we brought up dozens of analysts that are looking at the long-term perspective for Bitcoin here. And, when you see Ondo coming out, you made the announcement this morning. You showed, I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
But BlackRock, I believe, buying like $1.5 million worth for their bidle fund. So, of course, the things that we've been predicting, what we've been talking about, the tokenization, very, very bullish. So I'm ready to just kind of dive in and see what altcoins we can kind of scoop up here.
All right, Tejano, Josh doing his eyebrows. Got to look good for the cam. If you want to guess, how does Josh manicure his eyebrows? I have some guesses. Is it Wolverine adamantium claws?
I wish.
Okay, chat, let us know.
Easy.
We'll get some guesses in. Look at the charts right now. This is the 10-minute chart on Bitcoin.
Thanks,
you can see
Germany.
we just kind of crashed out of nowhere, falling a significant margin. These are just 10-minute candles. And then in that one 10-minute candle, we fell 2.6%. In the very next one, we fell almost 4% for 20 minutes. That is a very, very sharp crash. But then you see, we had a pretty good run up as well. And once you start zooming out a little bit, you can see, okay, maybe it's not quite as bearish as it could be because we're still higher than we were during the weekend crash. You see, Sunday night, roughly, we fell all the way down to 54,342. Currently, we wicked down to right below 55,000. You can see 54,980. Josh, are you feeling fearful right now? I mean, should we sell everything or do we start buying right now?
Well, let's ask chat here. I did put a Twitter poll out last night where I said, where is Bitcoin heading right now? So if you're on TikTok, if you're on Twitter, if you're on YouTube, make sure you first smash that like button, repost, retweet, do whatever you need to, share this with a friend. But what do you believe is going to happen? Are we going to go higher? And I'm meaning in the week time frame here, or at least the month. Are we going to go higher on Bitcoin's price, or are we going to go lower? So are we looking in the 40s? Are we looking in the 60s? Are we going higher or lower? I personally believe that we are going to go higher. That's my own personal opinion. But the reason for that is because of the poll that we took on Twitter. Usually every time we do these polls, the market does the exact opposite. So right now, out of almost 1,400 votes, markets are betting that we are going to go lower.
That's what we needed. We finally needed that. We need that
first time
ratio to flip before we could really start bouncing. We're going to talk about why exactly Bitcoin is crashing in just 1 minute, but let's look at the crypto prices because we're seeing a meltdown in the markets right now. We're seeing the alt bleed. We're seeing Bitcoin fall. We're seeing basically coins across the board just taking a giant dump. Really nothing is pumping until you really start digging deep there, but Bitcoin down 1.1% just in the past 24 hours. But 1.2% just in the last 1 hour. Ethereum falling about 2% in the last hour. We keep scrolling. XRP still kind of doing okay, even
absolute dog do.
Even though we've seen a little bit of a crash. Is bounced significantly from that low that we saw previously. If we hit the biggest gainers, well, we do have TIA and Bonk are moving, as well as Notcoin. I saw some charts on Notcoin. It was looking bullish. It was about to break out. I didn't make the trade. It looks like I maybe should have pulled that trigger there. But TIA is moving to the upside. It's actually green for the week. We were saying, maybe TIA has found a bottom around this $5 level. Now we see a little bit of a bounce. Bonk bouncing. What's up with Bonk? How come Bonk always does the opposite of all the other meme coins, Josh?
Meme coins are their own little market right now. A lot of meme coins absolutely getting, completely obliterated right now, but they're following the altcoin cycle. I expect a lot of these to bounce back. It's going to be pretty much narrative trading right now. So as Bitcoin struggles, your meme coins guys are going to struggle. I hate to break it to you, but the Bitcoin chart is correlated to the NASDAQ, and then the rest of the altcoin industry relies really on Bitcoin's momentum. So if that relative strength in the market is weakening, the altcoins are going to be a little bit weak. So you've seen pullbacks in Brett, you've seen pullbacks in Ponky, you've seen pullbacks in Pepe, And I do see that falling over into a lot of meme coins. But of course, I honestly think they will be the quickest to bounce back, especially if we do see a break to, again, $70,000 Bitcoin or 75K.
All right. Falling Down says you can't stop Bonk. Well, you can stop Whiff. Whiff was the biggest loser. So, on one end, we have the biggest gainer being a meme coin. On the other end, the biggest loser is also a meme coin. Dogwif Hat has fallen about 4%. Quant also down. Toncoin also down. And none of these projects are green for the week. If we look, Mantra and Notcoin and eGold actually did pretty good. If we look here, Brett falling, Phantom falling, Whiff and Pepe also falling. But we said, we know why Bitcoin is crashing, at least recently, just the last couple minutes. And the reason, it's the Germans again. The Germans just started selling. We're not talking about, they sold $100 million 8 days ago. No, they're selling right now as we speak. We're looking at the wallets. We got Arkham. We got Looks On Chain. We got all these people tracking their wallets. And the Germans are selling, everybody. The German government, this is very, very fresh. So hit that like button if you like the breaking news, everybody. This is just from about 30 minutes ago. German government
out, correct?
Well, let's look into it. It's actually, they got a little bit more than I was hoping here. The German government transferred 10,000 Bitcoin worth $500 million. This is just now, everybody. Kraken, Flow Traders, Coinbase, Bitstamp, Cumberland, B2C2 Group. Some of these are like private equity groups. Government has transferred 24,000 Bitcoin. This is $1.4 billion all in the last couple weeks here. This is just since June 19th. If you're wondering how much they still have, still a little bit more than half. So you can see they sold 1.4. They still have $1.6 billion worth.
So they're working their way through it, but they still have a decent amount left.
Yeah, they're working their way through. I'm seeing a lot of German political activists and especially the Bitcoiners over there. They're pissed at the German government and they're saying, stop selling our best asset. We basically have this German government. They have billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and they're just dumping it on the market right now. A lot of people are saying this is going to be one of the biggest mistakes they've made in, at least of this current century.
Yeah, I mean, you could simply pull up this chart here and just look at when they've sold over time. So, I mean, they've been selling off their Bitcoin quite a bit. You even have Justin Sun coming out and saying, hey, stop selling. Let us do this OTC. I'll buy it off you. But this just goes to show how stupid a lot of our governments are that exist around the world. I mean, we don't have to argue at this point that Bitcoin is the ultimate store of value, that it is the greatest digital asset to ever exist, that this is something that is becoming bigger than itself. And Satoshi, after creating this, this is truly becoming a digital store of value, a digital gold. And so seeing Germany just mess up again, I mean, this is a country that has failed decade after decade after decade after decade. And most recently with the energy crisis where they shut down all their nuclear plants, they keep making just the worst decisions for their country. And it's unfortunate to see. We saw the United States do this with actually Tim Draper. Shout out to Tim Draper. He's the only other man on the planet with eyebrows like mine. This guy, bought for $18 million Bitcoin that is now worth $1.8 billion today. And this just goes to show that a lot of these governments around the world, they don't actually want to step up to the plate, be held accountable, and fix the actual underlying issue in their economy, which is the deficit crisis. And so we're seeing this in the United States. We're seeing this in Europe. We're seeing this especially in Germany, all across the world. I just expect them to sell off this Bitcoin for short-term gratification to fix whatever dark holes are in their economy right now. It might be a short-term, fix or solution to very few things that take place, but long-term, man, they're just going to be stuck in the same place they were stuck, 5 years ago.
Yeah, and breaking news, like I said, this is 33 minutes ago. I actually found the dashboard. This is on ArkhamIntelligence.com. I do a little digging here, and you find the entity Germany, maybe a little bit covered there, but I don't know if you can see, 33 minutes ago, 33 minutes ago, 33 minutes ago, and 33 minutes ago. It might be cut off a little bit, but Kraken, Bitstamp, and Coinbase, and then this is the 139 wallet. They're suggesting that's probably some OTC deals right there. And breaking news, 1.34 billion is the current value. So, looking on chain, looking at the wallets, the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the numbers. They're down to 1.3. And if we look at that original number one more time, 1.3, and they still hold. So they've transferred about 1.7, I would say now, and hold only about 1.3. So yeah, as TJ said, getting through it. TJ, I wanted to hear your thoughts on Justin Sun comes forward and says, stop what you're doing. I'll be the Mr. OTC.
Yeah.
What does that make you feel about Justin Sun? Does he really have all the crypto, as people say?
It's just very consistent with Justin Sun in the past. He never misses a good PR opportunity, and that's exactly what it is. He knew there was no chance they were going to sell it to him OTC, but he knew everybody would be talking about his name if he came out and made that statement. So I mean, could he have potentially made those purchases? Sure. But and if they said yes, he probably could have rounded up the money to do it. It wouldn't have necessarily been his personal dollars. But I think it's just good marketing on his part. But real quick, we had a super chat from Crypto Facts Report. $10 super chat just said, "Good morning, everybody." Just wanted to give them a shout out. And we had Crowman on TikTok saying that he's down 50K today. So just shout out. If you guys are down, this is something Josh mentioned right at the top of the stream, or maybe right before we went live. We know, a lot of you guys are heavy in altcoins in the chat here, and we know altcoins are really getting beat up over this week. This is part of why I'm still mostly in Bitcoin. You guys remember I was talking about transferring out and was saying it was a little bit weak on the price action last weekend. I was hoping if we could hold, I wanted to see it get back above 63, 64 to, move out of Bitcoin into altcoins with confidence. Still haven't done that. So I'm still largely in Bitcoin across the board. But if you guys are feeling those pains, another person on TikTok said, well, I guess this is the time to DCA, which is advice Josh gives a lot too. So I would say, take a really hard look at your strategy and what you're doing. Don't get discouraged. This is what they want. They want people to get shaken out here. We're gonna season this sell off here pretty quick. In one way, I'm kind of glad. I mean, it's a little harsh that Germany's selling everything so quickly and just market dumping it. I do think it gives opportunity for other people to build strong positions. And once it's over, it's over, and there won't really be too much bearish catalyst left. Yeah. It'd be kind of, I don't know, it'd be hanging over our head if they did this over the next 3 or 4 months.
Well, one thing, a lot of people have a theory that, their government is just it's so inefficient that the way that it's ran, it's almost like people are looting the country. I mean, imagine if this was a, loot the German government's Bitcoin, like, hey, let's go ahead and prompt them to sell it all. Meanwhile, they do have a buyer waiting in the wings. Someone said, Germany's being very irresponsible. Would they do this to TradFi stocks? Would they just market dump DZ's Chrysler 300, more swag than Ondo, guys, Tesla. Hey, Germany just sold all its OTC to him. Okay, so it was that person. So if you just go ahead and stop selling, that would be great. Here we have a number that probably needs to be updated. This is from a few days ago. 224 billion has flowed into the market since 2023. Just talking about the government selling is being overestimated. Government sees Bitcoin only contributes about 9 billion. Probably update that to 10 billion today. About $10 billion to the 224 billion that has flowed into the market in the past year and a half. So it's only about 4% of the total cumulative realized value since 2023. Don't let government selling FUD ruin your trades, everybody. It's just one of those things to zoom out. But I did say I was going to give you a scary number, a real shocking number to the downside. If Germany continues to sell, the market doesn't have any support. If we lose the next level of support, there is a formation forming that is quite bearish, everybody. And that is the M formation right here, or the double top also. Has Bitcoin completed a double top? Yes or no? If yes, minimum target $44,000. So you see where the double top occurred. You can catch the baseline, measure that, and then measure that to the downside. It gives us a $44,000 Bitcoin. If we have 44K Bitcoin, TJ, are you thinking it's over? Or is this just the best buying opportunity?
No, ironically, I'm not a huge TA person, but it is always fun to look at it for confluence. And, 44K, 42K, those are some pretty strong numbers from the TA perspective. Maybe
it is.
You could say 45 or 46, but no, I could see realistic. I think I talked about this a little bit last week. We are a little ahead of schedule with the Bitcoin ETF, where technically, if we're tracking days from having and all that sort of stuff, we should be somewhere in the mid 40s around right now. Yeah. So mid 40s doesn't make me think it's over. I know it means, alts are going to get crushed, and it doesn't necessarily feel good. I mean, you don't want to see us pull back to another 20-30%. However, that is common in these upticks. We got another super chat from Crypto Facts Report. Says, doesn't it concern you guys that Germany is liquidating their $2 billion in Bitcoin, 1% of the market cap, and it brings down Bitcoin by 20%? And it's
my counter to that would say, you look at the 24-hour selling volume, buying volume, it's massive. And then you see they did all this in like one 10-second block. 33 minutes ago, 33 minutes ago, 33 minutes ago, 33 minutes ago. They had the 4 windows open. They're just like sell, 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 sell. And so it's an abbreviated spike. Imagine if you had a bridge and 10,000 cars cross the road every day, but then all of a sudden 2,500 cars try to cross in 5 minutes. It would be a massive congestion issue. So we're seeing the same thing. I think if you zoom out, it's really not that much selling.
Granny's Garden's back. Welcome back.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. BlackRock should be buying OTC from Germany. Who says they're not, folks? Who says they're not? Here we have Woo Blockchain tweeting out Bitstamp Exchange said that according to the agreement with Mt. Gox trustee, Bitstamp has 60 days to distribute the Mt. Gox tokens and will ensure that these investors are compensated ASAP as soon as possible. Previously, several Mt. Gox creditors Japan confirmed they've received Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash compensation in exchange accounts of Bitbank or Kraken. And speaking of, if you do have some old coin, some old Bitcoin, make sure you use Arculus, everybody. You can easily secure, store, swap, send, and receive crypto with the simple tap. Of course, our stream is powered by Arculus, everyone.
Yeah,
so
use code DC10 in the chat.
Yeah, code DC10. Bitcoin created new all-time highs. This is basically what TJ was saying about 90 seconds ago. Bitcoin created new all-time highs much earlier than usual. But what if the cycle isn't as progressed as it looks? Once you look right here, you can see, we're not in the fun zone, which is this green box. The fun zone is kind of where you get that final run, final cycle run. We're not even close to where it would be as far as a length of time. We still have some time here. Also, you can see it looks like this is RSI, I believe, on the bottom. A little bit of a capitulation area. We have hit the tops before the green zone before. You can see it. We did it right there. A little bit of a cool down, and then that's where the real fun begins. So still have a ways to go according to the Pi cycle top indicator and the Chaikin money flow. All right, this is probably old news. Contrary to today's news, it continues selling. Yeah, it's now even lower than that. So yeah, like I said, we were just looking at that fresh data. Let me refresh. 38 minutes ago. Still say 38 minutes ago. We want it to say 38 minutes ago. I guess Arkham probably has more traffic than they've ever had in their entire lives.
Sitting there
everybody's spamming that refresh button.
Yeah, everyone is, exactly. Yeah, I might come back. If we're just assuming, though, 38 minutes ago, we'll hit refresh, or we'll jump in if it does look bearish.
Real quick, I got a question for you guys from the chat earlier. I can't remember who mentioned it. I'll see if I can find it. But somebody said, I just it was TM90i, it looks like. That I round tripped every token in my bag, meaning I rode it all the way up into profit, and now I'm right back down to either break even or negative. Josh, you mentioned a lot of our audience, obviously, in altcoins before that. What do you say to somebody who maybe they're new to crypto, they've been in, say, 6 months or so, they watched the fun run up this year, and now they're back at either break even or down? Any advice for somebody like that?
I mean, if you're down 60 to like 80% at this point, it's really up to you to have that risk management. Like, okay, can you hold through this, or are you somebody that needs to pay rent, or are you risking more money than you can afford to lose? Because what happens a lot of the time is people jump into these markets when we are approaching an all-time high. So for example, the majority of people in the market today came here in February and March when we had that run up for NVIDIA. So they came in because of AI. They came in because people were telling them render was going to go to $50. They came in because they said Near was going to go to, do a 10x. They came in because, Ocean, Fetch, all these different AI projects were supposed to do these 10 to 50x's because of the advancements in AI, and then they get caught holding the bag. So if you're new to crypto, we, luckily took advantage of that situation, took a ton of profit, but then we started dollar cost averaging back into right after the Bitcoin halving, and we've been getting a lot of selling pressure ever since then. There's been a lot of FUD. May and June, right? Everybody was wrong about sell in May and walk away. The only people that were right about sell in May and walk away were the people that said sell the last day of May and walk away. They missed on an entire movement from $57,000 all the way back up to like 71, 72K. So don't fall for the traders out there that are telling you to like bounce in and out of this market. This is simply just buy and hodl. This is simply, if you're buying spot, 99% of you watching are not day traders. You're not going to day trade and use 80, 90, 100x leverage. You can't. You're going to get wrecked, right? So when you enter these markets, especially at this moment, this is where you start dollar cost averaging into those projects you're really, really passionate about. Those renders that were at $12 are now at $5, $6. Those Ajexes, those Oceans, those Fetches, they're down 50, 60, 70% at this point. So this is that time where you really want to sit down, you want to research, you want to dollar cost average into those blue chips that you are dying to buy into at 75K. And to say that the bottom's in, I'm not going to say that, right? We could go to 44K. We could go to 48K. We don't necessarily know that exact answer, but what I can show you is historically on our indicators, when you're looking at the MACD or the RSI or et cetera, we're at a lot of points throughout history on these in these graphs where these were like some of the best times to DCA. In fact, if you were to dollar cost average on the daily RSI, whenever it would have hit this oversold territory, or the people want to talk about relative strength bullshit or whatever it is, it would have been a great opportunity. You'd actually be up today. So again, now is the time not to run for the hills. It's to understand that this time around, take profits, dollar cost average in. When everybody starts coming to Twitter and says we're up only and that fear and greed is at 80, 90 greed, that's when you want to get out.
Yeah,
great stuff there.
Yeah, no, there's some good stuff in the chat too. Steve.eth says if you're down overall, you bought the top, just add some more DCA and be patient. And it's hard to hear be patient, obviously, when you're down a lot. But I talk about this a lot. You need to have a plan when you're buying, investing, speculating in crypto. You need to have a timeline in your head. And it's not usually this week, next week. So if you bought it and your plan was to hold it for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, you need to remind yourself of that plan and stick to that plan when you have these big emotional swings on price movements like today, because most of the time people start to freak out and their plan was to your point, Josh, oh man, if I had an opportunity to buy render at $7, I totally would. Now you're staring at it at $7. You're like, I don't know. But having a longer time preference, being able to wait longer before you take those rewards is generally very rewarding in crypto, especially with longer term projects. Now, you're talking about the latest, greatest, hottest meme coin. You probably want to be in and out of that pretty quick. But if you're talking about something like Chainlink, Ondo, some of these other stronger projects, holding through 2025 generally works out well.
I do want to say this time around, guys, please buy Bitcoin. Like I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but that's where your profits should go into. When you look at the overall market cap of the industry, meme coins are 3% of the overall crypto market. That means it should not be more than 3% of your overall portfolio. If you're more than exposed to 3% of meme coins in your portfolio, you are over allocated. Same goes for Bitcoin, right? I'm not 50%, 60% into Bitcoin at this point because the industry is much larger. So your dollar cost averaging, you're creating this portfolio around the overall industry, and you want to diversify into each sectors. It's all about diversity.
That being said, when's the last time you bought Bitcoin?
Probably 3-4 months ago, 5 months. Okay. I couldn't even tell you. It was earlier this year.
I haven't. I think I bought a little bit of ETH recently. I got a Celsius deposit or whatever. So I was like, all right, well, my Bitcoin percentage jumped. So I'm kind of riding that. Wondering where I should put $500, Solana or XRP.
Yeah, not XRP.
And by the way, you can actually go on Twitter. I think I'll go find it, but it was when I said I want 4 Bitcoin, I hit 1.2. I was like, I need a dollar cost average into it more. It was back when I sold all that AI token.
Yeah, that would have been late February. It was right. Because I remember it was when
I think it was March 10th.
Yeah, we were making some of those videos in Panama about taking profits at the top, taking profits on and that was sometime in February. And yeah, you nailed it on that call. Yeah. And like I said, you took so much flack. They gave you such a hard time for saying you're selling altcoins and rolling it into Bitcoin. I'm like,
that's how you start to know, is when you start getting a disgusting amount of hate. Yeah. That is how these markets work. It's like at the top, they're like, no, you're an idiot for selling. And then like at the bottom, like, no, you're an idiot for buying. And you're like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Well, you also need a new vehicle. So you took some profits to buy a new vehicle. Just
that
coincidentally.
Got lucky
someone else, I think it was Anthony or someone saying the Germans have gone home for the day. So maybe no more selling. So, maybe end of, I think I actually maybe makes sense. I know Bitcoin 24-hour market, but government workers, they probably go home for a day at 5 p.m. And I'm assuming they're not going to sell. But again, folks, I don't know. Maybe there's they tell the employee sell at midnight after you're watching the charts, and we hit the 1 minute RSI oversold.
Well, I know you got a lot more charts. So after you get through the charts, I do want to jump into liquidations a little bit because there's a lot of bullish
I got that right after this tweet from Ben Cowan. Bitcoin currently below its 200-day simple moving average, local low on July 5th. I think the answer to what happens in Q4 likely depends on how quickly we can reclaim the 200-day SMA. You can see here we were in this area 2023 during Q3, so we're entering Q3 right now. I'm seeing some similarities to what we saw in the charts about a year ago. Now, talking about liquidations, I do want to, analysts expect massive Bitcoin futures liquidations ahead. Looks like it hit a low of 53. Yeah, a lot of liquidations occurred here, and then I almost want to hit refresh. Now we got the liquidations to the upside on the 12-hour. This is Binance 12-hour, 58,303. This is max pain for the traders, where the exchanges, the whales, the billionaires make the most amount of money. Oftentimes, it goes to this point. So if you are expecting a quick relief bounce, this is the number I would be looking at, maybe 58,280, shave a little bit there. So 58,303. What did you want to say about the liquidations here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be watching that 58,230. We really got to We don't know how big Mt. Gox is going to affect us. We also don't know how big the Germany is going to affect us either. But if we do break that 58,000, I believe you can actually look at the chart there, but that's a major support or resistance level. So that would be very, very bullish to see. I would like us to see that $60,000 range. All we have to do is simply, zoom out, guys. So what's a 24-hour look like? Well, you notice that the liquidations all start stacking up higher and higher above us. You go to the 3-day, the 1 week, etc. You keep zooming out. Let's go to the 1 week now. We're going to be looking at probably above 60,000. Yeah, there you go. Almost 59,300, as well as all the way above 63K. That is where all the liquidity is sitting. And when you look at, of course, your liquidation heat map right now, this is where we're seeing all of the shorts start to pile up on these markets. We're seeing a huge favor. And what I like to see is the daily here. We're seeing shorts, even though we're at this range, you can see it's like crossing over a ton because it's been battling back and forth. We're now being put in the position where in type 1 in chat, okay? Type 1 in chat if you think we're going to go lower. Type 2 in chat if you think we're going to go higher. Because right now, the majority of the market does believe lower before higher. And that is generally when you start to find a really significant support zone, or if not even a bounce in these markets, as we saw in that Twitter poll. So, of course, we could go to 44K, we go to 49K. There is possibilities that exist there. But when you look at the liquidation maps, which is what I keep covering with you guys, this is when you don't want to be shorting the market or doing insanely high leverage. Like people that are high leverage trading right now are just complete idiots. I mean, you're battling a market that is full of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And we don't know the effects of even Mt. Gox being unlocked at this point. So tomorrow, BlackRock can come out, we bought $500 million worth of Bitcoin. Boom, all of a sudden, all of you are wiped out because we're looking at liquidations stacking up to the upside here. This is what a short squeeze looks like. For you guys that don't know, when the green side, this is so simple. I hate when, technical analysts try to make this market super complicated. Very simple. When you see this green side higher than the red side, that is bullish. If you saw the red side higher than the green side, that would be bearish. And at this point, the liquidations are stacking up above us, and we're looking at negative funding rates as well. And when you're in a negative funding rate, guys, that essentially means you have short squeezes looking to take place. We could simply go over to the delta spread here on Bitcoin. We're still at a negative $10 billion delta spread at $53,000, guys. On Friday, I believe it was, I was here with TJ and I think Kelly on stream with me. I was like, guys, we're at negative 35 billion. We're going to get a switch. We went from 53,000 to 58K over the weekend. If you were to make that trade off that would have been an insanely positive position that you guys took on that market. A lot of altcoins jumped 30, 40, 50% over the weekend. Now that's ugly, right? Because you're like, wow, we're still down 80%. But that would have been a trading perspective to have. Now, if you're looking long term, we're still bullish. We're still at a negative $10 billion, spread. We have a negative funding rate. And we're looking at, of course, liquidations stacking to the upside here. So if you're playing that downside of the market, you want to be a bear. You want to be, you want to short. You want to see 44K. Go for it. But my question to you is this. Okay, right now, there's a lot of FUD in this market. It is almost all FUD. The people getting the most views right now are fearmonger bears who pretty much are irrelevant the entire bull market. In most cycles, they really only come out 1 or 2 months out of the year because that's the only time they have anything that's not even really meaningful to say. They just start feeding off the hate because everyone's down 60, 80%. They want to point fingers and blame because they didn't want to take profits at all-time highs, right? So what you see at this position now is great. Maybe Mt. Gox does sell off. Maybe we do get that 49K. Maybe we do get that 42K. But what happens if another country comes out or does say, Justin Sun, we are going to sell to you. We're going to be OTC. Or Mt. Gox doesn't sell off. Or, you have BlackRock come in and buy $200-300 million worth of Bitcoin. Or, what no one's talking about, the Ethereum ETF. Mm-hmm. What if we get insane inflows into the altcoins here? We don't necessarily know. And the estimations coming from Vanik and our institutions, which are way smarter than these Twitter dwellers that live in their mom's basement. Yeah, they are coming out and saying that there's billions of dollars in inflows ready to happen. So look, I'm just at this position of dollar cost average. Be careful. Liquidations are stacked to the upside, and I'm still bullish.
Imagine if ETFs announced tomorrow. Everyone's going to turn very, very bullish very quickly. Josh explained the liquidation heat map drink. What's mine then? Is that Cardano, I guess?
Yeah, anytime you talk about, no, it's not just Cardano. It's some small cap Cardano ecosystem play,
yeah, if I mentioned books, Snick, Igon, they'll do it. For TJ, it's Cosmos.
Anytime I say something bad about XRP.
Adam. Okay, I'll accept that as well.
Real quick, we did have a couple comments from members. XRP, I think this is something for new people out there. He said, new people here, stay strong. I came in at the very, very top of the last bull run, bought at the highest possible prices. And then the bear market DCA'd my price down to where I'm in profit now. If you stick around, you'll be fine. And Seth Shepard said exactly. So many new people here that entered it, in the crypto spring are just done with it, which is true. You guys just have to learn to stick around, listen to the advice of people that have been here before. Big shout out to our members. A lot of them up quite a lot, and they know how to work this market. But lastly, real quick, we've got 860 people in here, only 240 likes, and we could easily hit 400 likes today if just half of you stop what you're doing real quick, hit that like button. If you're watching on mobile, you just have to close out of that live chat real quick, hit the like button. You can open it right back up. You won't miss anything.
And stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin your bearish take on XRP. We just did a video on this about 4 days ago, talking about the XRP case ending and what happens if we get some positive news with this SEC case, because we're seeing a lot of good stuff. So yeah, make sure we watch our uploads. I'm putting out an upload 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if Josh, of course, is going to have the 4 p.m. Live still rolling and still going. We have a pretty good wealth transfer that's about to happen. Let's see. Oh, yeah. A couple memes first, though. This isn't even a meme. I guess it's just a really, really good indicator. The MVRV score, we talked about this, market value to realized value. It's what the coin's last traded hands at compared to what the price is today. And there's going to be a point where all-time high, literally every coin is in profit. And so you can't really do that. You got to look at the length of time these coins are in profit. And there's a convoluted algorithm that they've made, and it creates this yellow line right here. And in every single cycle top, we basically hit around this higher score of like 6 point something. It's the MVRV Z score here. We aren't even close, signifying many, many moons of bullish action ahead of us. The bull market still goes on. The show goes on, everybody. The show goes on. This is great yearly data. Let's go back to 2011. We had a green year, a green year, green year, and then a red year. It's a little hard to see, I know. But then after the red year, green year, green year, green year, red year, green year, green year, green year, red year, green year, green year. Will this trend continue? It looks like it will continue. And TJ, the coolest part, Josh, the coolest part, except for one aberration, the highest level is that third green year where we had a 5,000% pump, a 1,000% pump. It's actually elite pump, 1337. We had a small one, quote unquote, only a 60% pump. And so now we're in the third year right now. Any predictions? Of course, we're going to be green. Where was Bitcoin? Let's just say January around that time. Bitcoin,
like
we go the 1 year.
28K, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty low because we were pretty close to the approval there. I guess I can just hit max. January, December. Yeah, right there. 45K. We're at 45K. 60% pump on that. This an additional 27K, 52, 60, 72K. We want to be higher than 72K though, everybody. Ben Cowan's got a hot take here. He thinks Bitcoin dominance will top around 60% between September and December 2024. And then he thinks dominance will go down in 2025. So Ben Cowan is saying alt season starts next year, but then he says he's probably wrong. That's just his opinion. Do you think we got to wait 6 months for alt season?
Well, I mean, technically, what he just said, it starts between September and December, right? That's when.
No, that's Bitcoin dominance topping. So that'll be like the weakest point for altcoins will be September and December around that period.
Yeah, but if it tops, then say it tops in September, that means November, December is technically the beginning.
Yeah, I guess. But if it tops in December, then it would be 2025. Yeah. So, what do you think, Josh? Do we got to wait 3 to 6 months for altcoin season?
I don't necessarily know. Did you skip over Ki Young Ju's tweet here with the Bitcoin selling is overestimated? He's the CEO of CryptoQuant.
No, check that out.
Okay, so I wanted to show this here because it answers that question for you. Is everybody wants to know, Josh, DZ, TJ, when is alt season? When is Bitcoin going to go back to all-time highs? This is a very interesting take, and it's actually very, very bullish here. Government Bitcoin selling. This is from the CEO of CryptoQuant. We're talking one of the best, the best on-chain analytical platform, and the guy behind the entire platform. That $224 billion has flowed into this market since 2023. So since 2023, almost $250 billion has flown into crypto. Government seized Bitcoin contributes about $9 billion to this realized cap. Only about 4% of the total cumulative realized value since 2023. Don't let government selling ruin your, or FUD ruin your trades here. Mm-hmm. And then he answers to a lot of people trying to battle him in the chat. Since 2023, $250 billion has been sold. Yet the price is up 350%. And $9 billion sell-side liquidity is manageable and not a black swan event. And this is to my point that I wanted to say, look, we could be very well going through first positive correction we've seen this entire bull market. Down 25% or whatever from the all-time high. So you have look. Maybe we don't get an alt season this year. I tend to be one of those people that thinks that alt season's not going to be what people believe it to be in previous cycles. I think Bitcoin's going to become more and more dominant. We had the Bitcoin spot ETF. There's things that are going to prop that dominance up, but altcoins are, of course, going to rally. There's going to be another season. So I don't know if that's 2-3 months from now, but according to Ki-Young Ju, the CEO of CryptoQuant here, don't let what's happening right now FUD your bags.
Speaking of FUD, Germany's selling $3 billion worth of Bitcoin, which has a market cap of 1.1 trillion. It is a speck. It is a turd nugget on the back of a blueback whale. Okay, it is very, very small. Trading on the 1 minute and 30-minute time frames either direction, in and out. Yeah, if you're going to scalp, get in, get out. We had a great scalp long on my ex, but folks, you got to follow us. Big shout out to Blofin, our trading sponsor there. We do have a giant wealth transfer that's about to happen. This is maybe me and my fiance in the future. U.S. baby boomers have a net worth of $78 trillion. A lot of this is in real estate now, but still, $78 trillion tied up with the U.S. baby boomers. Did you folks know Joe Biden's too old to be a baby boomer?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Boomers start in 46.
What is he? He's dinosaur?
He was born before 46, 44, 42, something like that.
Silent generation or whatever that's called? Or
yeah, what is before baby boomers?
I think it's the silent generation.
The silent generation? Because they like
They're
silent movies?
All dead?
No, they were like the kids that grew up where like kids were supposed to be seen, not heard kind of thing. Like,
yeah, when your father has PTSD from World War I trench warfare, he's probably a tough dad.
Yeah.
He's probably a firm hand in that household for sure. But U.S. baby boomers, I don't mean to make light of PTSD, especially World War I. That was like significant trauma. All right, U.S. baby boomers have a net worth of $78 trillion. This is 51% of the nation's wealth, more than half the nation's wealth, but they're less than 10% of Bitcoin ownership. Millennials, who only have 10% of the nation's wealth, they represent over 50% of Bitcoin ownership. Bitcoin is this generation's asymmetric opportunity. It's just numbers, it's facts. I'm not trying to, get dark here, but baby boomers are getting older. There is going to be a wealth transfer, just from inheritance. What do you think this spells for Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin the best asymmetric opportunity of this generation?
I think it's not even arguable at this point. I think, yeah, if they're 50% of it, what happens is that wealth continues to transfer.
Mm-hmm.
We're losing faith in the government. We're losing faith in our assets. We're losing faith in the dollar. It kind of just makes sense that more millennials, I'm not expecting like 10% of all that 100% of wealth that's transferring over to go into it, but I'm expecting a decent amount. And you're going to see that, I think, roll over into pension funds, Social Security, sovereign wealth funds, etc. It just makes sense. So,
all right. Did anyone say the year? Not true. Boomers born in 42. I have to look that up. I think it's 44 or 46 because it's after the war.
It is worth noting there is no like official right answer on a lot of this stuff. Like these, like I've gone over this before with like millennial versus generation.
Well, I've been in the office for these arguments in the years past,
and you can find a couple different. It's not word for word, or year for year.
Well, my website says this year. Exactly. Oh, mine says 1 year different. Let's argue forever.
No, the last thing I did want to tack onto that is I saw some. I don't know if we covered it last week or if I just saw it on X or something, but I did see a metric showing one of the most interested people groups in acquiring Bitcoin right now are baby boomers. A lot of them with all that wealth are looking to allocate a portion of their holdings into that, and beating out younger parties.
Ooh, I like food is life's take. What boomers say about buying a home will be exactly what we say in the future about buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll never own a whole coin, we said to the Chipotle guy after they aggressively asked for our tip. I just grabbed the bag. You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about, speaking of some numbers, we're talking about the government here, CPI, PPI, and Powell. Some of the key events are going to shake the markets this week. I know, Josh, you probably got a live stream or two planned for these. We're going to have the June CPI and PPI that's going to be coming out, and then Powell's testimony is going to be coming out as well. And the probability of a 25 bips first rate cut in November, currently 50-50. It is a coin toss right now. I forget that's the website. You can't highlight the tweets. Currently, the market putting a 50% chance of the rate cut in November, all the way to November. The CPI and the PPI data release, along with the testimony, will be the key drivers of the market trends this week. Also, the key drivers on whether or not we're going to get rate cuts this year. Here we have Wu Blockchain tweeting out the U.S. will release it this week. Then he'll deliver, this is only twice a year, semi-annual monetary policy testimony to the House Financial Services Committee. And so that's where we get the 50-50 from. The answer, but I'm saying maybe September here. Powell now used July FOMC to inform the market September rate cut is a lock. Do you think it's going to be a lock for a rate cut in September?
It's not a lock at all until we get
either.
the CPI report. No, I think they want to keep them higher for longer as much as possible. Their goal is 2% inflation. So even if this comes positive, I don't think we'll see one. Actually, let's pull up CME Watch Tool. Pull up CME Watch Tool. And I personally don't think we'll get one until later this year, and I think we're going to get 1 to 2. We're looking at 23 days till next FOMC meeting. We're looking at same interest rates for of course what's happening in July. September, 70% of the market is now factoring in a rate cut. 70%. It will really be, once we have the CPI data, we'll have a better understanding. That's going to be 70% as of September. And then as of November, that's when you push up to 80, 90% of the market is pricing in a rate cut. So I'm still, and I've been saying this for like 2 years, and I was battled against this for like the longest time, that I was saying rate cuts are going to be higher for longer, that Jerome Powell was going to stay by his word. This is what happened. We got interest rates way higher for way longer. I was arguing with like some of the world's top analysts on Twitter at the end of last year that we were going to get rate cuts as early as March. It didn't come. So it really depends on the CPI report and the PPI report. And we'll get that this week, at least with the CPI. And I want to wait until I make any decisions on the market until then, because they want more and more data. And if that comes out worse than expected, again, you're going to look to see this pivot towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I will say I was studying some stuff on global rate cuts coming, or at least holding flat, no hikes, worldwide. And we are moving into that part of the global liquidity starting to tick up, where even if we're not cutting rates here, I think the U.S. are generally going to be the last ones. We are starting to see other nations starting to do it. So once we start to cut the rates, I do think we're going to see a pretty good inflow of new money coming into the global economy.
Ooh, do I got a chart about new money that is going to melt your face? First, I pulled up Polymarket just to look how many rate cuts this year. The markets are predicting 2 over 1. So, Josh, if you got some conviction, man, go load up some Polygon and head over to Polymarket.
I should do it, honestly. That's one I would be willing to bet.
That'd be a good video for a live.
Yeah,
how to bet honestly, on Polymarket.
Because you could bet on it right now, and if it comes out worse than expected on like this week, by odds you'll actually make money. Yeah, even before the actual meeting takes place, because it won't execute till the meeting.
I wouldn't mind seeing your take on some politics, maybe some other nominees, maybe some running mates. There's probably some good opportunity if you have any alpha there. We do have, speaking of the money supply, though, I said I had a chart for you that's going to melt your face. Well, no, the only thing melting is the money printing machine, because they got that thing going so crazy. It's probably like molten steel at this point. This is the money supply. You can see we had that little bit of a cool down. Maybe they overprinted is what a lot of analysts are saying. Now it looks like the spigots are back on. You see, we had a little bit of a brief spike, and then we started heading back down. This is starting to feel more like a sustained rally. I think we're about to just have some more parabolic lines on the M2 money chart. Now, Josh, if we have parabolic vertical lines on the M2 money chart, is that good for crypto?
This is where we have to have that conversation. Everybody wants a 2025 bull run. They want this blow off top. I'm not still convinced at all that interest rate cuts are going to be positive for Bitcoin. I think when we have a weighted average, I pulled up this chart here. I wanted to pull it up.
Well, I mean, this is just the money supply. This is dollars in the market.
Yeah, but like you got to think about like who's borrowing this capital, right? Like especially at these
buying treasuries.
They're buying a lot of treasuries, but it's really the top 10 companies on the S&P 500, right? Like the thinnest weighted average in history. When you get the thinned weighted average, it's 1999, that's 2007, that's 2024. So those, while there is still significant upside, I just like to remind people, whenever you get an interest rate cut, it's usually because something's breaking in the economy and they want to, they want to stop it. And so, whether or not we have a soft landing, quote unquote, is what the Feds have been trying to do and avoid a recession or an economic depression. I think it's going to fall somewhere in between the line. And I would be lying to myself and you guys that I said that wouldn't have a negative effect on your stock market. And that's because Bitcoin and because Bitcoin is correlated to your stock market. Now, right now, this is what we have to pay attention to. And this is the conversation that's been taking place, is the correlation with Bitcoin. So let me open up this image in the tab right here. This is where, free. Exactly. For the first time, this is, I think, the highest divergence we've seen between the stock market and Bitcoin itself. And a lot of analysts out there are saying that Bitcoin has to catch up with the stock market, which is option one.
It's the Germans.
It's the Germans. And maybe Bitcoin does, and we get this parabolic like rally back up to 72K. Like that's something that could happen. But there's also now another very, very subcategory of individuals that I'm watching that are saying, okay, well, maybe, the weighted average of the stock market is telling us something different, that Bitcoin is breaking away. And maybe in a time of devastation or rate cuts, you would see that flow into Bitcoin here. But there's not enough data to tell that yet. And it's only been 2 months of data and information that we have this. So looking at the NASDAQ composite, comparing that to Bitcoin, I would say, guys, just as we approach maybe $70,000, $72,000 again, if we get to those ranges, just really make sure you're taking profits, because history shows us that you want to be prepared for when the Feds do decide to cut those interest rates.
People are still pissed about Germany. Yeah, Germany, the opposite of El Salvador. Germany is selling to pay for dumb stuff. Germans are coming. People are upset about the Germans. Are they selling for dumb stuff? Well, we did take out a pipeline. I don't mean we. It wasn't we. It was unknown entities took out the Nord Stream. I don't even think I could say that word. Anyways, let's move on. Let's go to something that's not politically charged. SBF is involved in this $100 million scandal. No, I was trying to go the other direction. The founder of FTX is involved in a $100 million scandal over the misuse of company assets for political donations. A Wall Street Journal revealed his family managed these funds aiming to influence the election, with his father, Joe Bankman, directly involved in the operations. I mean, is it too on the nose that their name is Bankman? They're carrying water for politicians. Just simulation plays with us sometimes. Let's talk a little Celsius here. What the F, Celsius? What are you doing here? Celsius sues users who withdrew 100K before the lender filed for bankruptcy. So if this is just affecting New York, and you have to be above 100K. So if you saw the writing on the wall, or you're just like, you know what, I got a lot of yield, I'm good, I'm cashing out. Well, they're coming for you. They filed a complaint in the bankruptcy court for SDNY against account holders with more than 100K of withdrawal preference exposure for transfers made out 90 days prior. So you could have got your money out 75 days ahead of time. You then, maybe you bought a house. Give us back your Bitcoin. Like, what are you talking about? You mean for that 7% interest? In a previous settlement, they recovered $100 million worth of funds from 1,500 account holders with preference liabilities that had a cumulative value nearly $500 million.
Yeah, so that's an important fact right there. I mean, I will say, it's sad to see Celsius going after anybody when obviously everybody who lost tons of money in there, they're not going to feel good about it. I will say, they mentioned that preference exposure. If you've heard people talk about the clawbacks, that's what this is. Anybody who withdrew 90 days before the bankruptcy was filed had a potentially for some of those funds to get clawed back. They did offer, I believe, most people an opportunity to settle that at like 13%, I believe was the number. Maybe it was a little bit lower than that. And each party had the opportunity to go ahead and settle it. Obviously they're not going to win this in court, most likely. So if you chose to fight it, you're basically weighing the odds of legal fees versus taking that haircut of 13% on the preference exposure. Most people just said, I'll take that, meaning like if you took 100K out and they were going to come after you for all of it, you could just give them 13K and not have to deal with all the legal fees, even though you're innocent, you didn't have any insider information, because that's basically what they would have to prove, is that you had insider information and that's the reason you withdrew from Celsius, which
hard to prove.
It would be pretty tough to prove, because most of these people were just retail people using the platform.
Yeah, I mean, were you in the polycule? Other than that, you probably didn't know. Here's someone's story. This is MedX0 here. Celsius has officially sued me and thousands of innocent users. Let's see here. We are everyday people who use the platform as normal, not insiders, not bad actors, because we happen to take our money off 90 days before they declared bankruptcy. They're trying to claw it back. At first, I thought it was a scam and then a shakedown. But now that the suit is actually filed, I have to spend thousands to retain an attorney. And this is where it gets sinister. In addition, they've more than doubled the amount they are suing for, because they asked for the current pricing of Bitcoin ETH versus the original 22 pricing. They're causing emotional turmoil because they can. It's insanity. Yeah, it's very, very not good. Not good, Celsius. I would say ban them. But
I want to answer a couple questions, because we're getting quite a few on the rate cuts, especially from TikTok's chat here. We had Croman say, Josh, do you think with a rate cut, market will drop. So as I was talking about that, I'm gonna put my I put my money where my mouth is, and I like to actually make somewhat of predictions. When you guys watch the show, you guys not only do we cover the news, but you guys want our thoughts and our opinions. So for me, it's like, look, the September rate cut, there's a probability for it. It's like a 60% probability right now for maybe 70%. If the CPI report comes out positive and unemployment obviously at 4.1%, that would more than likely confirm the first rate cut in September. So we won't know until that CPI report comes out Wednesday. And then at that point, I will tell you guys, look, this is my thoughts. But if that happens, look, I'm going to ask chat here. Type 1 in chat if you think rate cuts are bullish. Type 2 if you think rate cuts are bearish. I want to get your guys' thoughts here. Now, don't say, 2 just because you're trying to agree with me. Put 1 in chat if you believe it
depends short term, long term.
2 if you believe it's bearish. Well, if that's the case, what I think it might be like, again, is, for example, we had the GTC rally, right? Like everybody, we sold at the AI. We had the ETF, right? The Bitcoin ETF. That ended up being buy the rumor, sell the news. We had the Bitcoin halving, which of course ended up being the buy the rumor, sell the news. If you start seeing a run up towards that rate cut, that's where I'd really, really look at the market and be like, okay, is this going to be another one of those markets are over anticipating some crazy bull rally to come from this rate cut? Or is it going to actually set back because of the bullish price action moving into that event? So
if there's a cut and it wasn't expected, it's always a short-term bounce. But like you always say, it's being cut because of some underlying issue. So maybe there's a bad jobs report 2 weeks on the horizon, or steel prices are doing something crazy. Yep. Or the Houthis, or here we have a little victory lap for Josh. Josh has to get one every now and then. Favorite way to cut his eyebrows, I think it was a steel weed eater there. BlackRock has just made its largest deposit ever, putting $1.5 million into their bidle fund, Ondo Finance. It's hard to not be bullish on Ondo, and you can see BlackRock bidle fund right there. So BlackRock with their biggest Ondo deposit ever. I saw someone tweeting or messaging 86 cent Ondo, and they had no dry powder to deploy. I feel like I still need to add to my Ondo bag. I might start. Let's look. I might have to sell some of these dead coins. TJ, I have a Wax wallet. What the hell am I doing with this Wax?
I think your Cardano would do a lot better. No.
Oh yeah, no, I guess definitely.
Oh my gosh,
93
it did dip
cents
down to 83 cents.
Yeah, that was a good Ondo buying opportunity. I might have to
I bought it at 93 cents the other day. I added more to the bag at 93 cents. And so I think my average is probably around 83, 84 now, because our biggest purchase was like, I think 20K worth at 80 cents. I got to go back, look on chain. But this is now one of the big, that is incredibly bullish. And we hit $1.8 billion in tokenized treasuries. Yeah. 1.8.
I would say, Ondo, I like it. I got in. I'm feeling pretty good. I maybe should have took some profits so I could buy even cheaper, but this might be one I just continuously add to. TJ, do we have any Q&A here?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat. So hit us with any of your questions, guys. I think there might be some over here on TikTok. Yeah, let us know in the chat with your questions. It was funny. I was talking with Frank over the weekend, and he was saying he was looking at scooping some Ondo and some Airdrome at some of these prices. So
yeah, we went out on the boat. It was fiance's birthday, and Frank didn't wear swimming shorts and was ridiculed by everybody.
Yeah, Frank
he was the only one left on the boat.
Did he have sneakers on?
I believe so.
Yeah, socks and sneakers, usually like he's just same outfit as if he was going to get a sandwich or something he wears on the boat. So
where's he from again? Long Island?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a Long Island beach move right there. You think of like what a Jersey Shore bro would do if he went to the beach.
Sneakers to the beach. That's Frank right there.
Sneakers to the beach.
Someone says, did I name my Tesla Ondo? I should have.
You should put that on the license plate.
I should put that on the license. You're right. That would be a goated license plate.
Tig has a good question here. What are the indicators you look at most when leverage trading? I'll say this is the one that's been working the most for me lately. I will say it's the RSI. I don't have it pulled up here. Short-term RSI divergences, bullish divergences. I don't really trade the bearish divergences, but I would say RSI is a great one. I can show you how to find it real quick. I got to expand. There's a little tab here that says indicators. You click indicators, and then you just type in RSI, not KSI, relative strength index, and then boom, right there. And then normally look around like the 20, 25. Also like finding time frames that are just outside the norm a little bit, like an 11-minute time frame or a 7-minute time frame, and then just look for just divergences. And honestly, they've been doing very, very well. In fact, if we look right here, we saw a scalp opportunity on Cardano. I'll post when I exit, stop loss here. This is a perfect example. So you can see the price heading down, as the RSI moved up. This was exclusive to my subscribers. And then I saw liquidation heat map. This would probably be indicator number 2. And I said, guys, it looks like it just wants to go to this level. What did it do? Oh my God. Well, you look at that damn trade. That trade just went up.
Nailed it.
We had BMC asked, please talk about Ondo's connection to BlackRock. I thought it was a nothing burger. It's a great question here. I don't know who you're watching, but ultimately BlackRock's been buying Ondo like consecutively week after week after week after week for months now. And this was their largest purchase of 1.5 million. So you can see it if you want to pull up the screen here, actually, TJ. We have, it's on-chain evidence that they're buying it. So what this means is Ondo is by far one of BlackRock's bidle's project's largest clients. And there's a lot of crossover there. And so I expect a lot of synergy and expectations of the accumulation from BlackRock's and of Ondo Finance itself, but also vice versa. And so when you see, CME group events and stuff like that come out in the future, I think you're going to see Ondo Finance on stage at a lot of these traditional, finance conventions. But essentially, they're just a huge tokenization offer that allows you to borrow and lend tokenized treasuries. And that's incredibly bullish. And so there's a lot of tie over into it. But of course, the connection is directly that BlackRock's bidle fund is going into a lot of Ondo Finance here. So that's where that is for you. You also have what indicators do you look at most when you leverage trade? You answered that one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. What's a good strategy to DCA out when we hit new highs? I mean, you kind of just said it right there. I mean, dollar cost average. Just, what is your strategy? Are you looking at like the 4-year cycle? Well, maybe have a 3 to 6 month exit strategy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you're exiting over the last 6 months now, you did pretty good because that means you caught the March high. So I would just say, start with the smaller caps first, maybe end with Bitcoin, because the small caps, when they're in profit zone, maybe need to move on that trigger a little bit quicker because it could fall 80% very quickly.
And I would say that the hardest but easiest thing to do is just take out your initials. As you're up 20%, take out 20%. If you're up 100%, take out 100%, right? Try to get it to where your money in the market is just house money. And you've taken, complete profits on everything that exists in that. So you can either, 1, diversify more, or 2, that you're just making sure you're paying that out for yourself. So if you're out, like Ondo, I think did 100% gain almost at one. It did do 100%, 70 to $1.40. So it's like, at that point, if for me, I had put tens of thousands in, why not take tens of thousands in profit, right? That's how we bought the Tesla. But that's just one of many examples. If you guys are doing this with altcoins that aren't 1 billion and they're up 3, 4, 5x, why aren't you taking out 2x of that and then letting the rest ride? You have to come up with a strategy yourself. Me and DZ and TJ, we can't guide. 1, we're not financial advisors, but 2, we can't guide your hand and click that buy or sell button. We also don't know what's going on in your everyday life. Do you have, student loans? Do you have 4 car payments? Are you paying for your kids' medical bills? We have no idea what position you are in perspective in your life, nor what your risks are. So just keep that in account and make sure you guys have a risk management strategy.
Mac Mola had some Kusama Kadena. Should I get out 90% loss, roll into better projects? I would not mind buying a different parachain that maybe is going to have better days ahead of it. So smaller cap parachain that, doesn't have an unlock in the next 3 to 6 months. There's one more to circle back on earlier. Do you expect that we see a bigger alt season this bull run compared to the last bull run, or will it not be as big? I don't think it will be as big per individual project. I think Bitcoin dominance will shrink to a new relative low. I think, the entire sector will be larger, but now it's being divided by more projects. So the competing L1s, now there's more. Hot L2s on Ethereum, now there's more. Meme coins, now there's more. And so more money will flow in, but it's being divided. So we got a larger pizza, skinnier slices. And so that's what I would say. So it won't be as big for individual projects, but the entire sector will be larger. One more maybe for you. Do you see any?
Had small bag of Kusama and Kadena. Should I get out at 90% loss or roll over into a better project?
I feel like a jaded lover you just don't listen to.
No, sorry.
I bought my first Litecoin.
I'm reading like 4 comments over here and then going back over here.
Some people can't walk and chew gum. I bought my first Litecoin for $75 back in 2017. I saw people saying Litecoin is looking like it's coiling. Let's just look at Litecoin real quick. Litecoin, it is a little bit of a pump today. Max, that looks terrible. I've talked about this trend line. I don't think this trend line is going to hold. By the way, there's one bright light for Litecoin, and that's the LTC BTC trading pair. Folks, it looks very, very bullish once you look at like the weeklies. Let me shrink that. That is like a falling away. I mean, it just seems like it keeps getting new lows. With that being said, I do expect us to get a little bit higher. I can see it going 5x against Bitcoin here, but you want to get Litecoin though? TJ, what do you think about Litecoin?
I'm not a Litecoin guy.
No.
All right, well, folks, that is all we got. Make sure you hit that like button, and then we'll talk more about Litecoin if you want. And we'll see you at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Josh, bring in the fuego.
The fuego. You guys soon.